Elizabeth?
Yes, you're clear. Just begin the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. And thank you for joining today's webinar. Thank you for webinar. Thank you. Just a minute, there's some echo. Okay, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar. My name is Mary Tago, a teacher of English and literature from Kisumu.
Mary? Mary, we lost you again. Rogers?
Yes.
Maybe you can take over for Mary as she fixes her network issues.
We are sorry about that. Members who have already joined. That was Mary Tago is our moderator, a teacher of English and literature from Kisumu chapter, as she has already said. Maybe because she's having some buffering in her network, allow me also to introduce the speakers. Myself, I'm Rogers Ondiro, a teacher of English and literature from Siaya chapter. I am also the Secretary General of Beta Siaya, a chapter of LPAC. We are here together with Elizabeth Odhiambo, who is also with us here. She's an author and also a teacher of English from Siaya. Maybe I'll also allow her to say hi to you because she'll also be facilitating this particular webinar.
Hello, can you hear me, Elizabeth?
Yes, we can hear you. So we were moving on. Rogers has introduced you and introduced himself. I was just about to introduce myself. Mary? Okay, as she again is figuring out network issues, I'm Elizabeth, as has been said. Currently, I work at Bishop Okoth Girls Mbaga in Siaya. Like Roger said, I do authoring on the side. And for today, we'll be talking about the topic that Rogers will introduce you. So thank you for joining us. And we hope that at the end of the session, we will have gained something. Thank you so much for being here. Rogers, back to you.
Thank you, Elizabeth, for that. Members, allow me to bring us to our main business of the day. That is planning lessons using 21st century skills and multilingual approaches. This one promises to be a topic that is very essential for any teacher out there, teachers of English, teachers of language, and any other teacher out there. It's just important because lesson planning is not a reserve for teachers of English only. So lesson planning is for any teacher who goes to class to attend to students. Lesson planning is very essential. It's one of the professional documents that a teacher must keep and must have, not just because it's a requirement, but because it's a necessity for us to have engaging classrooms that we may deliver well. But now, additionally to lesson planning, we are going to look at how can we infuse 21st century skills in our lesson planning of our lessons, and also how do we bring in multilingual approaches in our lessons. I know much more we are going to get as we move to the next slide. Next slide, please. Now, our main objective for this webinar three. We are targeting three objectives. One, we are going to discuss the 21st century skills and their importance in a lesson plan. I'm certain that as we speak now, we have interacted with this term 21st century skills, which, because we know very well that we are also dealing with 21st century learners. Therefore, education has been evolving. We have to also bring in the aspects of 21st century skills to meet the demands of the current curriculum and also the 21st century learner. We shall also look at its importance in a lesson plan. What do they bring in a lesson plan? Then number 2, we shall also define what multilingualism is and its relevance in an ELT lesson plan. So multilingualism, I'm also aware that we have interacted with multilingualism as a teacher. And if this is your first time interacting with the term, stay tuned. You will get to learn more from us and also from yourselves. I know you have experienced this. We shall be chatting on the box so that we can get to know something about multilingualism. Then lastly, we will also generate a lesson plan that integrates both the 21st century skills and multilingualism. Remember, that is our main focus, the 21st century skills, because we're not just planning a lesson, but does our lesson encompass the 21st century skills? And do we also have aspects of multilingualism, or how can we integrate this within our lesson so that we can have interactive lessons? I am telling you, as we proceed, we shall get to know more about these terms, the 21st century skills and also multilingualism. We can proceed to the next slide, please. Now, there is something to think about here. When you hear the term 21st century skills, what comes to your mind? When you hear the term 21st century skills, what comes into your mind? We can use the chat box and put our thoughts there. Mary will help us read a few things that we already know about 21st century skills. When you hear about it or you've heard about it, what comes into your mind? In the chat box, please. I would really like to hear from you because we want it to be as interactive as possible, because we are handling or we are doing a webinar as teachers who have also learned one or two things about this. Anything on the chat box about 21st century skills? Anything that you've learned?
Somebody, Edith says 21st century comes with digital literacy. Thank you, Edith.
Very good. Anything else there?
None apart from Edith.
Thank you, Edith. Digital literacy is one of the 21st century skills. Thank you very much, Edith. We shall get to also meet these and many other things as we proceed. Maybe you continue. So 21st century skills brings in something on skills, something on attitudes. We're going to touch on this. Something on, Catherine says, yes, you can read something. I can see Catherine saying something about that. Yes, Mary, the chat, something on the chat.
Thank you. Thank you, Rogers. Catherine says learner-centered, and Catherine says learner-centered and practical. Thank you, Catherine. And then we have Constance says the latest skills in teaching. Thank you. I think both of them are right.
Wow, that's good. That's very good, Catherine. And
back
also
to you,
Constance.
Rogers.
Thank you very much, Mary. I think that we are on the right track. We are handling this when people have some background information. Elizabeth, so it's about skills, something about attitudes, something about technology. Someone spoke about digital literacy, which is at the center or at the core of 21st century skills. And then teaching approaches. Our teaching approaches, Catherine has talked about learner-centered approach. So our teaching approach must change when it comes to the 21st century skills. Remember, we are used to the lecture method where you go to class, the teacher knows it all, the teacher comes and lectures students, you give notes, you give some assignment, you mark, you correct them. So it is the teacher everything. But now teaching approaches changes here, because now it is going to be learner-centered. The learners are going to do the work, the teacher facilitates learning. I have a quote down there that we came up from Frank Smith. One language sets you in a corridor for life. Two languages open every door along the way. That quote is preparing us for multilingualism, that just having one language is a big disadvantage. But when you have two languages or more, many doors open for you, as we shall be seeing as we move down, as you continue tuning in. We proceed. Yes, in this slide, we are going to look at the definition of 21st century skills. We have had attempts on, very good attempts on our chat box, showing that teachers have information about this. So these are tools learners need to become adaptive. Look at the word adaptive. We have to adapt to the current teaching style. Number two, innovative. Number three, responsible global citizens. So we are not just teaching, but we are making students to become also adaptive, to become innovative, to become responsible citizens. That is what 21st century skills does to a learner, not just a student who is used to cramming. You know, you cram for exams. You know, even up to now, this 844 thing, we just teach for exams. Elizabeth will agree with me that right now we just teach students for exams, but things are going to change, especially for us who are in senior school and we are expecting the grade 10 students from next year. Liz, am I right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, so we have to also, the teachers also have to adapt to these skills. We can also say that this is a set of knowledge, abilities, attitudes, and values. So with 21st century skills, it doesn't stop at knowledge alone. It continues and expands to abilities of the learners. It also looks at the attitudes. It also looks at the values that we are also imparting on these learners, which are essential for the success in today's rapidly changing. You can look at those words in bold. Rapidly changing. The world is rapidly changing. We are not where we were. We are in 21st century. This is 2025. We are moving to 2026. We cannot continue teaching the way we were taught or the way our teachers taught us sometime back in the year 2000, the year 1995. Technology driven. Technology is at the heart of 21st century skills. Catherine talked about digital literacy. This thing, we have to be there. And as a teacher, we have to also shift. Our minds must shift even as we shift the learners, and globally connected to the world. The learners finally must be globally connected to the world. So that is digital literacy skills. Remember, technology puts us in a small village. We are able to connect. Like even right now, you will find some of the participants are from Nigeria. I don't know whether we have any participant from outside Kenya. If you are there, you can put on the chat if there is any participant from outside Kenya, or even if you are in Kenya, we're not in the same place. I can see those who are in Meru, there are those in Turkana, there are those in Kiambu, there are those in Mombasa, but we're able to learn together because of digital literacy. Focus on helping students think critically. So critical thinking is part of 21st century skills. Solve problems, so problem solving is another one. Collaboration. Who can tell us what collaboration is? You can unmute and tell us what it means, students collaborate in a moment. Collaboration as a 21st century skill. Somebody can unmute. What do you understand by collaboration? Hello? Or you can put in the chat box if you are not able to unmute and speak. Collaboration. I just want to know whether we are together.
I think it means working together. Working
Yes,
together.
Francisco? Yes, working together. Very good, Francisca.
Somebody.
Yes, Mary, carry on.
Oh, Catherine also says collaboration is working together, which I think is okay. Thank you, Catherine. We also have Innocent saying it is teamwork. Thank you, Innocent. And we have Danson saying working together to complete tasks. That is equally right. Nancy Akinyi from Turkana chapter says learners work together, make substantive decisions. Thank you, all of you who have commented. Back to you, Rogers.
Thank you, Mary, for that. Collaboration, just as we have said, that is working together. You see, sometimes in a class, you have to group students to work as a group. Sometimes ability grouping, we have those groups in class. People work together. Somebody is writing there to achieve a common goal. Yes, you give them some tasks in a group. You can give them maybe some 5 minutes, you give them some 10 minutes, you give them some 20 minutes, maybe to complete a task. As you put them in group, they're collaborating. And collaboration becomes a part of the 21st century skills. Sometimes you've been doing it, but you've never known you are imparting 21st century skills to the learners. Another one is the ability to communicate. Are the students able to talk to one another, especially when you put them in groups? You know, they have to talk. They have to share ideas and all that. Then the aspect of adaptability. Yes, you have an idea, but now they're trying to adapt it to suit their level and also to thrive in diverse environments, because we keep on moving from one place to another. Sometimes the class environment changes and you have to adapt to those kind of environments. And going beyond memory of class content, actually what we are doing now is memorization, where you just teach students how to memorize, how to cram, and go and replicate what they have memorized. But now with the 21st century skills, something about memory is going to be a story that is in the past. Now, think also about life and career skills. These are essential competencies for success beyond classroom, because you're not just preparing these students for classroom alone. One of the things I tell my students when I teach them about report writing is that report writing is not just for class. Outside there, they will also write reports. Maybe we have something like a CV, a curriculum vitae. Yeah, it's not just for class alone, but also outside there, a curriculum vitae will be required. Even letter writing, such kind of things require us to do that. Thank you. Now, we have a link there that touches on 21st century skills from the British Council. We can always click into that and get more information about 21st century skills. Thank you. We can move to the next slide.
And as we move, Rogers, I want to recognize Augustine Rono. He says collaboration simply means working together with one or more people to achieve a common goal. And he adds that in CBE, collaborating means learners co-create knowledge, solve problems together, and learn by interacting with peers instead of working alone. Thank you, Augustine. Back to you, Rogers.
Wow, thank you, Mary. You can see the kind of insights the teachers are having about this 21st century skills. And I'm telling you, it's going to be beautiful as we continue to do this together. Thank you, Rono, for that. Multilingualism on the other side, because we said our lesson plan has two things, multilingualism and also the 21st century skills. We've delved so much on 21st century skills. Now, let me read what is there, and then we shall also share what we think about multilingualism. Multilingualism is a normal human condition. Speaking two or more languages in a natural way is a natural way of life for 3/4 of human race. That is David Christo, 2006, 409. What comes into your mind when you hear about multilingualism? Maybe somebody could share with us in the chat box. Multilingualism, what comes into your mind when you hear multilingualism? Maybe you've heard about it somewhere, or you've read about it somewhere, or even you have interacted with it well somewhere. What is this multilingualism that we are discussing today. Share your
May I
thoughts in
contribute?
the chat box. Yes, Beatrice.
Thank you. In my opinion, multilingualism, especially in our country, Kenya, a state where we have a national language like English, then you have the indigenous language of Kiswahili, which is talked by almost everybody, and then probably someone has those two, plus an additional like French, and also the mother tongue or the language, the native language of the ancestors. Thank you.
Thank you, Beatrice. Mother tongue. I like the word mother tongue and other languages that other people can be able to speak more than one language. I don't know whether there's something in the chat box, Mary. Somebody has put something in the chat box?
Not yet.
Okay, maybe when they come in, we shall also talk about them. Wow, now multilingualism can be explained in these words. One, mother tongue, just what Beatrice has talked about. Mother tongue, for those who may not understand, is your first language. Most of us have that first language. Let me also say, because we are talking about multilingualism, lugha ya mama, ile lugha ya mama, because we are now in multilingualism. Now spoken Swahili. Yeah. So you have the mother tongue. There are many people who their mother tongue is not English. Their mother tongue could be Kisi, could be Kikuyu, could be Luo. That is their first language that they speak at home, or could be Kiswahili, something like that. Maria, can see something on the chat before I proceed?
Yes, there's something. There's something on the chat box. Who is this? We have Victor Machoni from Turkana chapter. Turkana chapter is very active. Thank you. Victor says, multilingualism is a state in which one is able to communicate in a number of languages. Thank you very much, Victor. And then Constance adds that multilingualism is the ability to speak several languages. Thank you, Constance. And then there is another person here. There's another person here. We have Augustine again. Augustine Rono says, multilingualism is the context of English language teaching, that is ELT, and competency-based education, CBE, refers to the pedagogically guided use of more than one language to support learning, communication, and competency development. That's what I have, Rogers.
Thank you, Mary, for that. And thank you for everyone who is putting something on the chat. I like all the ideas that we have on the chat there on multilingualism. There is mother tongue, there is other languages. Let me, of course, we are going to speak about multilingualism with respect to curriculum, the curriculum that we are teaching, not outside the curriculum. What does multilingualism bring? In number 3, we have cultural diversity. There are people who teach in cosmopolitan areas or places where students have speak different languages. Yes, it is an ELT classroom, but remember, these students have the other languages that they understand. Others understand Luo, others understand Kikuyu, others understand Bukusu. I don't know. Luya has got many dialects, so I don't know which one specifically, but they have another language apart from the one you're speaking. And most of our students also speak Swahili, because Swahili is also taught in school. All these languages bring cultural diversity. You know, when you speak your Luo in this classroom, there's a way a student identifies with this language. A Kikuyu identifies with their language, and it prompts the student to even participate more because they feel they are well represented. Gone are the days when we used to be given a disc. I don't know whether people can remember about discs. Mary, I don't know whether you're also given disc when you're in school.
Yes, I was. In almost all the schools.
Yes. The disc was a very common thing that you have spoken in your mother tongue. But now we are looking at multilingualism as a way as an advantage that learners have another language that we can use to reinforce learning. It is supposed to complement learning. It's not supposed to be a barrier, but to complement learning. And the teacher should allow the use of it so that learning can continue. We have something called translanguaging, that is moving from one language to another language. Maybe you are switching from Kiswahili to English, you are switching from your L1 to English, because the students we teach English, especially in African context, English is a foreign language. It's taught as a foreign language. Very few households have as English as a first language. Very few. Elites. Most homes will find Swahili as a first language or their mother tongue as a first language. So allow them to use the language they understand, and maybe they can now translate into English. So that is what we call translanguaging, moving from one language to another language. And we have there a link for multilingualism on this matter. So you can always click there and find more. Please, another. Yes. There is a picture there, some pictorial there. I don't know who can tell us what is going on there. What can you see in the chat box? Or you can unmute and tell us. What do you see on the photos? Leave the writings out of this, just the photo. And maybe what we can say about it. Anything about the photo? Someone can unmute. Somebody is unmuting or putting in the chat box what you can be able to see.
Maybe just go on. Maybe we'll
okay.
Look at it. Just go on.
Oh, okay. Thank you. When we value both modern competencies and learners' linguistic diversity, we create lessons that prepare students not just for school, but for life. So we have the modern competencies that we've talked about in the 21st century skills. We also look at the linguistic diversity of the learners, because the learners come from different linguistic backgrounds. So we embrace all that, and it does not become an obstacle. It becomes something that promotes learning, and we use it as an advantage to us as teachers, because there is something that a student can explain well in their L1, but if you tell them to explain in English, they tell you they don't know. Sometimes I have students in my class, they tell me, Mwalimu, if you allow me to explain in Kiswahili, I don't know whether people have interacted with such kind of students. Student tells you, yes, maybe I explain in Kiswahili, or Mwalimu, I know just this thing, but in our mother tongue. You don't rebuke such kind of students. Allow them to express themselves in that language, because that is a language they're very comfortable in. And then we can translanguage from that language which they have spoken to the next language. Like teaching oral literature in English sometimes is very difficult. But when you tell them to bring their songs, their proverbs, their words in their language, it makes learning very interesting. So integrating 21st century skills with multilingual approaches is not an addition to teaching. That is what we are adding here. It is reimagining of what meaningful learning should look like. So we are not just doing an addition to teaching, that we are adding these things. That is exactly what should be happening. Reinforcing the 21st century skills, the collaboration, the digital literacy as a natural thing that should be happening every day. We are not adding anything. And then multilingualism approaches also is not an addition, but an advantage to us, that at least learners have something that they are able to speak. I've told you that I have learners in my class who they can express themselves better in Kiswahili. They tell you, Mwalimu, nikueleze kwa Kiswahili. I'm also translanguaging for the purposes of this session. And then you tell, yes, explain, and then they explain. But sometimes you find some teachers are not very comfortable with it. And even if you're not comfortable with it because you don't understand the language, you can always allow another student to translanguage or to interpret or be able to tell you what the student is saying in their language. Because sometimes you are in a place where you don't understand the language of the local area, but the students understand their language. They can speak in their language. Another good student can translate to you in English or in Kiswahili so that you understand better. So the teacher should not be an impediment because you don't understand this. Mary, something in the chat box? We've lost Mary. we proceed. Now, just before this, Elizabeth, just take me back to the other slide. There's something I just want to add before I finalize. Just quickly. Yes, down there is a link to a sample lesson plan from the British Council website. Remember, all these things we're doing are from courtesy of the British Council. So we went to their website and looked at one of the lesson plans there, and then we have adapted that lesson plan. We have adapted it to fit our lesson that we are going to share here. So what is being shared on your screen is a lesson plan from the British Council, but now we are adapting it so that we are able to use it to fit our level. You know, sometimes whatever you pick from the internet or you pick from the digital spaces, it may not be able to fit your classroom environment. So you bring it so that it brings meaning, so you adapt it. That is what we're talking about here. So that is a sample lesson plan from the British Council. So let us proceed so that we can look at the lesson plan now that we have understood the 21st century skills and also something on multilingualism. Now, in the sample lesson plan.
Rogers, please.
Yes,
Rogers,
Mary.
please, before you
Yes,
proceed, let me read from Beatrice Onyango. And I was just saying that in the spirit of multilingualism,
Mary, your network.
Use other languages. Okay, Beatrice Onyango says, translanguaging is important. Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Okay, so Beatrice Onyango says translanguaging is important. Manual and technical skills are needed for future interaction. Just a minute, please. Okay, I have it again. No, kindly, Rogers, can you please read?
Beatrice Onyango said translanguaging. Okay. Please carry on, Elizabeth.
Translanguaging is important. Manual and technical skills needed for future interactions with native clients such as media, buildings, etc. Victor said, women with computers working together. I think this was about the photo. And then Danson says translanguaging could also be good to lower the students' affective filter and make them more comfortable to participate in class. This definitely boosts their confidence. Mary?
Okay, thank you. I was just reminding the participants that in the spirit of multilingualism, they can as well use other languages. Thank you.
Thank you. In the interest of time, allow me to just comment something on what Danson...
presenters, you can carry on.
Yes, what Danson Kimathi has talked about, that translanguaging makes students comfortable and it makes them to participate even more. You know, sometimes when you hear your language being spoken, your mother tongue being spoken somewhere, like now we are at a marking center, and you know, when you hear somebody speaking your language, you want to move closer to them and speak and identify yourself with them because you have heard your mother tongue being spoken. So you can imagine if that was in a classroom environment, the learners would even participate even more. Now, in our sample lesson plan, we have key components of a lesson plan, administrative details. Maybe in the chat box, somebody can tell us quickly about administrative details, something about the name. What else do we have in the administrative details? The class. The stream. Elizabeth, what am I forgetting?
The name of the teacher.
Yes.
Yeah. And their credentials.
Those are administrative details. Maybe the name of the school, the stream, the number of students in that lesson, in the lesson plan. Now, in our lesson, strand is coming in place of topic. We used to have topic in our previous lesson plans, but now in the CBE, it's a strand. So our strand will be environmental conservation. In the sub-strand, which will used to be the subtopic, is the environmental challenges in the local environment. So that will be our major focus. Now, lesson learning outcomes, what we used to call lesson objectives, now are called lesson learning outcomes. So by the end of the lesson, a learner should be able to, one, explain the causes of environmental challenges in their immediate environment. So that is the first learning outcome that's touching on knowledge. So a good lesson plan should have three learning outcomes. So in the chart, maybe come up with a skill and the effective lesson outcome. So because we need a skill, the learner should live there with a knowledge which you've already come up with. Another one is a skill. Another one is the attitude or the affective aspect of this lesson outcome. So maybe you can come up with two more in the chat box as we proceed. Mary will go through them later as even we proceed. Thank you. At this particular moment, allow me to take it back to Mary to welcome the next presenter.
Maybe I'll just pick it up. She may be out of commission because of network. So I can just smoothly go on. Thank you so much, Rojas. You've very clearly outlined elements of 21st century in not trans, but multilingualism. And I think the task now is we work together so that we see how this lesson is going to come up. Our crux was the fact that in January, we are going to be sitting in our desks and we are going to be preparing this lesson. So we want to walk through it as much as time will allow so that we are able to be very comfortable with this in January. Like he said, that right from the learning outcomes, because that will carry your lesson so much, you must outline the knowledge that you want these learners to be able to acquire at the end of that lesson. There must be a skill where they're interacting with one or two things to further cement their understanding of the knowledge that is fitted for the lesson. And finally, you also want to know how they feel about it. These 21st century learners want to learn, but they also want to make sure that these things making sense in the world that they live in, the experiences that they will go through. So when you come up with those learning outcomes, ensure that the three are outlined. And like the slide that I've just left is the key inquiry question. And with the key inquiry question, it's what do you want the learners to understand in the lesson? And so which questions do you need to ask to guide them into that? Let me just go back to that slide for a second. Just give me a second. Okay, my computer is acting up. It's okay. So with a key inquiry question, we don't want so many of them. Maybe if you have at least 2 inquiry questions, they could be able to fit your lesson. For our case, we are talking about environmental conservation. And specifically, we are narrowing down to challenges, environmental challenges in the society that the learners come from. And so you're coming up with questions that will direct them into that. What are these environmental changes that the learners can be able to pick out from the areas that they come from? And once they have picked out that problem, then what solution could they come up with to remedy that problem? So when you're setting the key inquiry question, you're focused and very appreciative of what you want the learners to get. Then from that point, you think of the learning resources that are going to help you to achieve these outcomes that you have come up with. We have suggested a few. It could be pictures showing things like deforestation or a dirty river like we have suggested. You could have a digital picture of a cleanup. One states the problem, but the other guides the learners into a possible solution. You can have flip charts, you can have markers. This is open to you. You're looking at the environment that your learners come from. You're looking at the type of learners that you have, and then you're coming in with resources that will be able to help you to get them to the point you want to get them by the end of the lesson. Then from that point on, you get introduction of your lesson, because you need to be able to put your learners in a mindset where they can be able to appreciate what you are talking about. 21st century learners, what kind of learners are they? These are digital learners. How can I tap into that into my lesson? A suggestion here, a teacher introduction could guide the learners to observe and name pictures related to environmental conservation. Remember, you're trying to get them into discussion on environmental conservation. The picture we have, for example, in our slide, would guide learners towards the idea of garbage collection or waste disposal, but it's just a picture. Once they see that picture and they're able to connect it back to the idea of conservation, then you have achieved the idea of observation in your lesson. You could also go for the second one that encourages learners to look around their school. You could even bring it down to the classroom and then discuss issues of waste that they can see within their classroom. You're moving these learners from something that they know to something that they don't know. So when you start from the classroom, that can then be moved to the school and can be country. So you have moved them systematically at the very beginning of your lesson. From that point on, then now you want to start developing your lesson. How are you going to do that? This lead-in activity, remember we have borrowed this from the British Council website, and we are trying to make it for our Kenyan classrooms, that you have displayed a picture of a polluted river. Once you've done that, what are the learning experiences that you want the learners to go through as they look at this picture? You can put them in pairs. And in these pairs, you make sure that there are pairs that can understand each other, especially if you're coming from those cosmopolitan schools that Rogers was talking about. If they understand the same language, chances are they can discuss better. If they have varied language skill sets, then chances are they're going to cross in their discussions. So you put them in pairs based on a similar home language that they have, and then to discuss maybe one problem that they can see in the picture and possibly give the cause of that problem and maybe a solution. As they're doing that, you're already getting them into the idea of what conservation is. And because we are talking about CBN, we're talking about developing of competence. As you're coming up with this activity at the back of your mind, you're asking yourself, what do I need the learners to figure out at the end of the activity or at the end of the learning experience? For example, you can put this on the chart for me. As they look at the picture and they discuss and they come up with the problem and a possible cause and a solution, what core competency, the CBE core competencies, what core competency could be developed at the end of that particular activity? Maybe someone can unmute their mic and tell us how multilingualism can be highlighted in this particular task. I'll allow one person to tell us how multilingualism can be brought out in this particular lesson learning experience. Anyone? Maybe we can share on the chat. Rogers, keep looking at the chats for me. I don't know if we have lost Mary.
Yes, seemingly. Maybe she has some network interruptions. Someone is asking, hello, Rogers. Liz talks of cosmopolitan schools. What does this mean?
Okay, when we are talking about cosmopolitan schools, we're talking about these schools that are in the niche where you have a multiplicity of cultures, multiplicity of language. There are learners coming with very varied backgrounds. So you're walking into this class of different tribes, you have different capabilities. So it's a mix of so many things. So when you're looking at these learners, then where do you meet them in your planning? How will I be able to care for all of them in their varied differences? I believe that was Nyangute. So it's the difference that we're talking about those cosmopolitan skills. Okay, we'll continue looking at the chat, but we'll go on, but continue placing those competencies in the chat. Then from that point on, we move on to the next, what you've done in activities. Now you're getting the teaching of it, and I'd like us to walk through this. I suggest somebody really unmutes and we talk about this. You have shown them the picture. Now you bring in vocabulary that is related to conservation, vocabulary that will bring them to the strand, that you're talking about. We have suggestions of pollution, waste, recycling, conserve, protect, and environment. So those are the vocabularies that you want to take the learners through so that they can achieve the core competencies highlighted down there: imagination and creativity. Now, this is the which learning experiences can you at this particular point in the lesson use to achieve the competencies that we have highlighted? These are what in the past we used to call teaching learning activities. Now we are referring to them as lesson learning experiences. So which experiences will you take your learners through with this vocabulary to achieve imagination and creativity? I can allow someone to unmute and talk to us.
May I speak?
Please.
Thank you. I'm thinking about these learners because they're in pairs. They take some time to do a pair discussion. And then after the pair discussion, we give them some time to put their points together. And then one of them does a public presentation to the class.
Yes, Beatrice? Okay, thank you. I think I had the gist of it. That we put them in pairs.
Pair discussion and then presentation, oral presentation.
Liz, did we lose you? Hello?
Hello?
Roger. We have lost her. Yeah, sorry.
Like we've lost
But we
Liz?
have some. We have some comments on the chat. Maybe you can also read the
Okay,
chat
let
as
me
we wait
read.
for
Let me
Liz.
start from Kefri. Yes, Kefri Nombiru says discussing in L1 and sharing in English promotes multilingualism. That's correct. The L1 is their mother tongue or whatever language that they learn from home. Then Christine Nyamila from CI chapter says they're allowed to discuss in their L1 and do their presentations in English. I think that still captures multilingualism aspect. So we are agreeing that we are not restricting learners to just discuss in their mother tongue or in English alone, because we want them to enjoy these lessons. We want them to participate fully in these lessons. And the only way, sometimes there are some students who keep quiet in class because they cannot identify themselves with the language that we are using. I can see Elizabeth is back. Let me read one more comment as I welcome her back. It will be, Catherine says again, it will make it easier to understand English after discussing and understanding in L1, then share in English. That's perfect. Actually, sometimes when you discuss in your mother tongue, you get to understand the deeper part of it very well, rather than the one in English, because English sometimes has terminologies that you don't understand much more, but when it is well explained in your mother tongue, so you get to understand. So relating it now to English now becomes easier and makes you even enjoy and participate fully. And also you feel you are part and parcel of the lesson. Nobody's left behind. Liz?
Yes, thank you, Rogers. I believe I stepped out.
Yeah.
I was following on the same discussion. I think I saw earlier that Kip had mentioned something if he's on, I can give him an opportunity to say something. He was talking about us being careful of over reliance on the L1. Keep, I don't know if you're on. Over reliance on the L1, saying that you can code switch to the L1, you can translanguage with it, but there's have to draw a line and ask, when is enough enough? When should we know that we have used enough of the L1? Because remember, at the end of the day, we are still teaching a subject. Maybe later he'll get an opportunity to share that. Once you are done with that activity and the competences have been grasped, now you come to your 8th task. And for our lesson plan, we chose to play a video. And our video was on air pollution because we're talking about challenges of environmental challenges, actually. So we play a video that talks about air pollution. And the learning experience is that the learners will work in groups. Remember when we had the resources, we had felt pens and stuff like that. When were we going to use them? In sections where we're talking about group work. So in groups, we asked them to write maybe 2 causes of air pollution from what they can see in the video. Then they can talk about a solution. Now, if you find that your learners are having trouble, like Rogers was explaining just shortly, then you have the option to bring in multilingualism. How are you going to do that? In those group discussions, you can suggest that that first begins in the L1, though we are being cautious. Now, once they have finished discussing in the L1, now they come back to the class and present it. Beatrice talked about this presentation, but we want to be very particular with the presentation. So we are introducing sentence stems. Now the sentence stems are on the slide, that you can suggest that they begin by saying the problem is, and then they go into a presentation of that problem. Then to explain the cause, they can begin by saying it happens because, and then they launch into a description or an explanation of the cause of the problem that they had shortly identified. Then finally, for the solution, they can begin by saying we can help by, and then of course, they give a listing of those solutions that would be able to fit. Why are we doing this? Remember, at the end of the day, it's about moving a learner from one point to another. And we are talking about the teacher being a guide in the lesson and not the center of that lesson. So we are creating learning experiences that are enabling the learners to work together more, even if they're doing those in pairs or in groups, but then they come back to the class for presentations, for feedback. Because when you stand up and you say the problem is this, then the class is able to react to that and say whether that is right or whether that is wrong and give suggestions. When you come up with a solution by saying we can help by doing this, they can get into that discussion and they can come up with a really concrete way of solving this problem. Again, back of your mind, how can I use this to promote 21st century skills, or how can multilingualism come in? I think I've explained a little bit of how that multilingualism is coming in. Then from that task, you now move on to here where I want us to spend a little bit more time. Please be ready to unmute a bit and we talk about this. In their group work, they have talked about the problem, the causes, and the solutions. But at the end of the day, what were you looking for in this lesson? We were looking for the problem, for a solution to that problem. So when you come to step 4 now, you're creating an action plan of how we are going to solve this problem. It's not the teacher. It is the learners that are going to come together to create this action plan. So I want us to work together in a minute or 2 and figure out the lesson learning outcomes that we can use at this particular point. You can write on the chat, or you can simply unmute and express yourself. Yes, we want to do a community action plan. That is what the teacher wants. But how do the learners do it? So which are the lesson learning outcomes that we could use at this particular point? Please unmute if you can. We talk about it, or go to the chat. Rogers, have a look at the chat. I think I see some messages there. As we wait for someone to unmute.
Yes, I can see Davis, Turkana chapter saying we allow learners to point out elements about environmental conservation in the L1 with the class, and we find its translation for the rest to get it. That encourages them to be free and flexible. Beatrice Onyango says using we is good, helps learners realize they have an active role to play in real life situations.
Any other?
Then Dixon says, great, I've enjoyed from Limuru.
Fine. So when we are getting into this action plan, I'm still hoping someone will unmute and say something. In that action plan, we are looking at solutions. Which solutions can these learners bring up? They're going to be in groups, obviously. And as they're in groups, they're talking about solutions. It can be as simple as asking them to write 4 sentences of how they can help to clean or protect a community. It can be about listing resources that they can use as they are cleaning that environment. So in the action plan, ensure that the learners come up with a concrete way of taking these things from the class. Rogers talked about this, that we are preparing learners for the classroom and beyond. This action plan is going to be for beyond. We want them to take skills from the classroom, use it to better the school environment, and then take it to the community around the school so that we are promoting development of a student who's all round. Once they've done that, you could be
Please, may I
asking
talk?
them. Yes, Beatrice?
Thanks. I was thinking about a situation where you can, out of this lesson, you can now talk to students about setting up a time plan on when to do an active cleaning exercise, for example, during manual work in the morning or games time or even maybe a weekend. That was my take.
Definitely, that will definitely work for the action plan because it's about what we want to do and then what time period do we have to do it. Even if we are planning, for how long are we planning, then when are we executing? Thank you so much, Beatrice. Once I've done, you might want to assign roles because these are can be presented to us before it is actualized. Who's going to be the secretary? Going to be the present this in front of the class. So then we move to the next step. Just a second.
Liz, are we losing you? Okay.
My network is bringing problems that I'm working through.
Okay. Please proceed.
Okay. Once you build the plan, now you have the presentations. So each group now comes in and does their presentation conservation plan. And then the rest of the class is supposed to give feedback. I mentioned this a bit earlier, that feedback was important. Again, I want to guide because we want this class to be able to communicate very well. Communication is one of the aspects that we want to develop at this point, and to collaborate and work together. So again, we brought in the issue of the sentence stems, and we are giving them guidance on how to give the feedback because the teacher will not give the feedback. It will be learner for learner. So we are suggesting that as you watch the presentation, give a compliment and then give an improvement. I don't know how you felt, Rose, when you have presented something and then someone says, I don't like it. What you did was not good. Sit down, go back and try again. I think that would kill your spirit. But if you begin from the point of, I liked this, but maybe you can improve this, then that is something that could be helpful to learners. Finally, once you've gone through all that, they have their plan and they're able to bring out, and you've moved to the end of your lesson, you think about the conclusion, you think about the ended activity and the reflection. The conclusion, in the interest of time, the conclusion just summarizes what the lesson has been about, and we've given a sample of that. The extended activity is what we have traditionally called the homework. And so you give them something, but it has to be something that can fit within their life as it is. So we have suggested that they go back home, observe and record an environmental mistake or challenge, and suggest an action. And they can write this in the environmental diary. But if a learner has a video recorder and they record the problem and send it to you as a teacher that this is the problem and this is the solution, that is quite fine. 21st century skills. Another one could have a camera and they've taken the photo and it is the photo that they have pasted on a paper and brought to school that this was the problem, and below it they've written the solution. That is still fine because we are looking at a concrete kind of learner. Finally, obviously, at the end of that section is the reflection, which is normally filled by the teacher, looking at how the lesson went. What were you able to achieve? And if you didn't achieve it, what are you going to do about it? If you're going to redo that session, then at what point would you redo that session? We have moved from the beginning of the lesson down to the end of the lesson. And the idea was we are teaching this particular thing, or not teaching, guiding learners through this particular strand and substrand, but we are infusing multilingualism for reasons that we have explained very well in the chat box, and using these skills that fit this learner that Rogers initially called the 21st century learner. I hope up to there, we have shed some light on the issue of lesson planning. Rogers, take it back from there.
Thank you, Liz. That was quite elaborate and quite interactive on the chat box. And those who have also made their presentations through unmuting. Now, as we conclude, we have these takeaway tips, very important. Number one is allow students to use their languages as learning resources. Again, we repeat this because multilingualism is very, very important. So the languages that they have are a learning resource. We take an advantage of it. This creates participation and confidence for all learners. We want all learners to be actively involved in learning, not some people feeling they can't pronounce this word well in English, so they are going to mute and keep quiet, sorry. But when they're allowed to use their L1, the participation is going to be enhanced and also their confidence is going to be boosted. Number two, encourage code switching for clarification. The code switching is just moving from language 1 to language 2. Even as you express yourself or the students express themselves, sometimes they can start off in Swahili and end in English, or start in English and end in Swahili. It is important that you can clarify. Yes, you hear me?
Yes, we had lost you a second. Continue. Clear
yes,
now?
Yes, I'm clear.
Yes.
Okay, so code switching for clarification, even as the teacher also, you can also code switch a little, especially now that a good number of us can speak Swahili and English. We can always code switch the two for clarification. There are certain things that explaining them in English, even yourself, for learners to understand becomes difficult, but you can always code switch. Number three, promote collaboration through structured group work. The word here is structured group work. Let the group work not just be left for the students to decide who sits in which group, what task they do. Give them groups, group the students, and also give them some work to do. I've seen in some classes where you find a teacher allowing the students to group themselves. Sometimes it is not very good because you find they want to group themselves as friends so that they can tell stories and not really to learn. Number four is integrate critical thinking and creativity by asking questions. The teacher must use some thought-provoking questions so that the students are able to respond. They think, they discuss, they try to synthesize, and then they can present on the questions that the teacher has provided, and letting students compare ideas in their different language. I think this one now has been well explained. Then use simple digital tools like Google Images, YouTube clips, TikTok to build digital literacy. I told you as we began that digital literacy is at the heart of the 21st century skills for these learners. These learners are not analog, and therefore, these things you're talking about, some of them may even have more knowledge than we do, especially on the Google things. So you can go and Google images, like we added some image of some polluted river. We can get that one through the Google images. You can do a YouTube clip, maybe for maybe a group of people doing some cleaning and all that. You can get those videos, video clips. TikTok is very popular, especially with our learners. Most of them use it for social purposes, but we can also use TikTok for learning. Especially, we can have videos on TikTok that touch on the topics that we are going to talk about. Not all things in TikTok are bad. There are some of those things that are relevant and are educative. You can always use them in class because the students will easily identify themselves with the TikTok and such kind of social media platforms. So let us use them. The word there was simple digital tools. Don't go for ones that are a bit complex. You can use these simple ones that the students know. Sometimes you can even allow the students to come with their phones because something like TikTok, you require these mobile phones just for the lesson, not for other things. They can come with them after the lesson, you can collect them, then in the evening, they can take them back home, especially if you are from this day school. So you can borrow a few phones from the staff room from willing teachers to assist you, and then you can have the same and help the students learn. So I think with these 5 takeaway tips, we have handled the 21st century skills, and we have also handled multilingualism very well so that we are able to incorporate all this for our learning to be as interactive as possible and to allow the students to learn without any hindrance because of a language barrier or anything that may come their way. Thank you for listening to me. That was from me, Rogers. Allow me to usher in Elizabeth. I don't know whether we lost Mary completely, but Elizabeth, you can have your final thoughts as we end. Elizabeth?
Sorry, I did not
Seemingly
know
we
I
lost
had unmuted
Elizabeth.
myself. No, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Here. I had not unmuted. Thank you so much. Just a bit on the chat. Isaac says, Bay also offers free images. We can check that out. We always are looking for things that can make our learning very well. Victor, I see emoji. Thank you so much, Nafula. We appreciate it. And for everybody that has stayed with us, our network was a bit tricky. Christine says in 47, we hope so. Lynette, thank you. If there are any other questions, you can just put them in the chat. I will see them. But overall, we hope that this is information that you can use come January as we try to get into this system of CBE. It's going to take us time to pick up, but we are trying to collect as many tools as we can to make that transition a bit smooth for all of us. Kipchirchir, I see your comment. Thank you. For you earlier to say something about over-reliance on L1, but we can always pick it up on the wall and have that discussion there. So I want to say thank you. I have seen membership from across the chapters. That is very encouraging. And I know a lot of us are tuning in from the marking center, so we appreciate it's not easy, including Mary and Rogers. So that is very appreciated. Augustine says in Kenya, CB context, 21st century skills thrive when multilingualism is embraced as a resource, that deepens and boosts confidence and enriches communication. By allowing learners to draw from the languages, teachers are creating loose, culturally grounded classrooms where critical thinking, collaboration, and creativity naturally flourish. I think this is a beautiful summary of what we are trying to do. And remember, we are going in uncharted territories. Nyame says, what are your thoughts on using Sheng in multilingualism? Again, remember when we were talking about this, we are saying multilingualism is on the language. It's not on the dialects, for example. If it is dialects, that is something different. But that notwithstanding, you're trying to find a way to get to your learners. And like Kipchiche was saying, I can tap into it, but I should not over-rely on it. If it is that one word that you can use and you can move 1, 2, 3 learners into understanding, go ahead and do it. But you're tempering it so that you are doing it in a way that it does not downplay the target language. It is supposed to enrich learning through both of those languages. So you're going to measure how it comes in. Elga, sorry, says, the only worry is where there is no electricity and network for ICT integration. That's why I said we are tempering it. You're going to look for what works for you. I think Rogers, correct me if I'm wrong, but if I can't have network, but I can print those pictures and put them up somewhere, I'm still making some sense. If I can draw them or whatever it is. So work with the situation that you have to ensure that you can reach your learners. Up to that point, let me say thank you
Actually,
for being with us. Yes, Rogers,
actually,
you want to say something?
Liz, thank you. Somebody was talking about network. Something like Google Images, just as you said, you can print them before time. A YouTube video can be downloaded before time, before the lesson, and then you come and simply play it. You don't now need internet once it is downloaded. Even TikTok videos can be downloaded before you come for the lesson, so that if there, because in case of any network interruptions, you are very safe.
Okay, you
Thank
can
you,
finish
Liz.
with a few messages that have come in and then give it back to Jane. Finish with the few messages that have come in.
Thank you. There is Elga says, thank you for the great presentation. Catherine says, my network is disturbing me, please, but we've done well. We appreciate everyone who has been in. Danson Kimathi says, that was a very informative session. Great job, Elizabeth and Rogers. Catherine says, good work, team. I think, again, us working together, the three of us, is collaboration. And bringing you in, we are still infusing 21st century skills by working together with Elizabeth and Mary. Now, up to that, I don't think if we have much more to add. Thank you for tuning in up to the last minute. Allow me to welcome Jane from LPAC to say their final thoughts. Our contacts are there, just in case you may need to talk to us, send us an email, give us a call in any area you need clarification or where you need us to collaborate and maybe work in bringing something good for the learners together. Jen, please welcome.
Thank you so much, Rogers, Elizabeth, and Mary. Let's appreciate them by giving them their flowers. Let's appreciate the good session that we have had, very informative, definitely. And thank you all for the amazing points and ideas that we have shared through the chats. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. So this is our last webinar this year. We are so happy that we have had a very successful year through the different webinars that we've been taking or having. I just want to appreciate every LPAC member and every leadership of the different chapters that we have here. Thank you everyone for your collaboration. We do not take that for granted, and also volunteering your time, taking your time to be here and to continually grow and grow as a community indeed. I'm not sure whether we have any board member here. I think we have Constance. I can give her some time to say something before we close, since this will be our very last webinar until the year 2026, God willing. Thank you very much. Constance?
Jen, I think I saw Chairman. I don't know if he's still in, so you can.
Yeah, I
find
also
out.
think I saw him, but I don't think he's here. But for sure, I'd seen him too. In case I'm missing anyone, please let me know. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Okay.
Constance? Are you there?
Thank you, Jen. I really appreciate Elizabeth, Rogers, Mary for the awesome presentation. That was great. Since we are all heading to CBE, we are really, really grateful for that presentation. I wish to appreciate all members who have sacrificed their holiday and joined today's webinar. May the Almighty grant you all the best. As Jane has stated, this is our last webinar, And we wish to appreciate all of us who have worked with us through this year of 2025. We are hopeful that 2026 will be better and we will do better. Thank you very much. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thank you, Constance. From us, let's continue engaging on WhatsApp or any other platform, maybe Facebook or LinkedIn. But from us, have a Merry Christmas for everyone who's celebrating Christmas and a Happy New Year. Goodbye. We can put our mics on and say goodbye. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.
Goodbye.